Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on latenightsportsradio.com. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, you can call in at 585-633-7487. Joined with, as always, Alex B. Smith, sportsmemo.com, KellyInVegas.com, AXSmithSports.com. Alex, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Kind of fired up a little bit for what's going to be our last episode of 2015. It's been an interesting year in sports, and we've got another interesting, I guess, well, it's not breaking news anymore, but another story to add to the interesting stories of sports in 2015 with Chip Kelly now on the unemployment list as the first coach on the chopping block before the Black Monday that'll be coming up. He's out of a job now. So
I do find it. I just had this conversation on Saturday whether I thought Chip Kelly would be out of a job after the year, and I didn't think so, because this doesn't strike me. The Eagles, obviously during the Andy Reid era, were very patient. Let Reid do his thing, and for them to give so much power to Chip Kelly over last offseason and to just bail on it completely after one season is so un-Eagles-like. And it's weird to me, like Jeffrey Lurie has never been one to cave under the pressure to the Philadelphia media, fans, and whatnot. Has it gotten him a Super Bowl? No. But they've had a very successful team over his tenure as an owner. And I think I just find it odd that you just completely give up on Chip Kelly after 1 year. I know he made some personnel changes that are questionable, but I think you give it at least 2 to 3 years to see if he can actually build a team that maybe he spends money a little bit more frugally, or proves that his system can work. I just find it odd that they got rid of him so quickly.
My thing is this. I don't think, I loved how his offensive system worked in college. And I think it was just too, everybody just thought, wow, because it's how dominant it seemed to be in college that it could just translate right over into the pros. And sure, schematically it can if you have the right personnel. But the fact that, like you said, the money factor changes everything in the NFL, whereas in college, you're getting young kids, you're not spending any money, directly to them. And you can handpick and you have a lot more input in exactly what kind of player you have. It's just a completely different system. That's why we've seen a lot of college coaches, fail making that jump to the pros in any given sport. And I just really think that Chip Kelly is his system, not just on the field, but how he handles guys in the locker room. Apparently that had been some under some criticism, a clashing of personalities, if you will. I just think that his whole system belongs in college. His offensive style, he might have been worked as a great offensive coordinator for a set franchise that was willing to build the same pieces that he had the same mindset that he did as far as game planning. But I don't think he has. I think it's pretty clear, we found out over the last couple of years, that he just didn't have the full personality to be an NFL head coach. And I don't think we'll ever see him. In my personal opinion, we won't see him in the NFL coaching anytime soon. I think he'll go back to college. And I think that'll be the best fit for him.
Well, the current hot take, as they're calling it now, is him going to Tennessee to coach Mariota. And I guess I don't know if Tennessee, what they're looking for as far as a coach, but I mean, if that's a destiny, if he's going to succeed, it almost makes sense that, and for Mariota to succeed in the NFL, it almost seems like those two would need to be together.
Sure, but the thing is, if you look at the rest of that Tennessee team, I mean, it's Tennessee. Yeah, the brightest spot for them right now is Marcus Mariota. Obviously, he's out for the rest of the year, and they they got some other talent, younger talent coming up. They got David Cobb was looking decent before he got injured. A couple of good receivers, but I don't see I don't think that's going to help him much, to be honest. I think he had control of player personnel this year. I don't really understand why he didn't try to go out and get Mariota to the Eagles. I think that would have been a great fit rather than trying to get a quarterback with severe injury problems who doesn't really fit the system that he runs in Sam Bradford. So if his whole deal was to be with Mariota, he could have done that with a better franchise in Philadelphia. So I get where that could be coming, but I don't think that would. I think that would be pretty disastrous for Tennessee. Granted, I mean because that's a team that I feel like they need somebody to really sit down with them and rebuild that whole franchise. I don't think Chip Kelly would be the guy to rebuild Tennessee. Like I said, I don't really see a spot for Chip Kelly in the NFL as a head coach. Maybe as an offensive coordinator somewhere, but I don't see him taking that kind of a demotion just to stay in the NFL because, like I said, there's colleges out there that would be willing to spend big money to have Chip Kelly revamp their system. And we know how well it works in the college level.
Do you see a Bob Huggins type situation with Chip Kelly? Because it's kind of too late for him to go get a job in college now. Do you see him potentially doing a Bob Huggins type thing where before Huggins went to Kansas State, he just started recruiting all these guys and saying, hey, I'm going to find a job, and when I do, you're coming with me. Could you see him potentially doing something like that?
Sure, absolutely, because of the system that he runs, and players know what kind of offense it is. High school recruits they're aware of what kind of system and offense he runs. So I could see, that wouldn't shock me one bit. And there's still some colleges that are looking for coaches. There's some schools that may not have been looking for coaches that might be firing some people now just to get Chip Kelly. So. He has that kind of pull and power in the college ranks. That wouldn't shock me one bit to if we start hearing some rumblings of that.
Is there, going into week 17, I have never seen a more outside chance of making the playoffs than with what the Colts are facing right now. I mean, obviously, there's always, snowball's chance in hell for a certain team, but I've never seen it go. I don't remember a time where it's gone down to the sixth tiebreaker where it's going to be possible. If with all, going down to strength of record, I have not heard of that tiebreaker coming down in my lifetime, at least.
They always write it in, but you never, like you said, it's never one of those moments where it could really ever happen. It's so abstract now. In fact, there was a funny moment in last night's Denver-Cincinnati game where Mike Tirico literally said, he says it would basically be a 10-team parlay that would have to cash in for the Colts to make the to have made the playoffs. So I thought that was pretty funny. He used that terminology, but it's pretty much foregone. They're not going to make, and if they do, they're basically playing their 10th string quarterback at this point. They went and signed a couple of guys off the street. They're struggling right now. Who's going to throw the ball if they would even sneak into the playoffs?
Who do you think? Is there any bets out there right now? As far as I saw, the odds are 30 or 3,300 to 1 or something that they make the playoffs. Is there any prop bets for them right now?
I haven't seen any of them, and if they are, the true odds of it are a lot higher than 3,300 in my opinion. So it wouldn't be, it wouldn't even be worth, you'd be better off playing the lottery, one day, for the rest of the week than trying to cash a bet on Indy making the playoffs right now.
Looking at the, I guess Black Monday's coming up. How many coaching changes are you expecting? Gus Bradley is quote unquote safe. I'm expecting maybe 5. Does that seem high or low?
I could see where it'd be 3 to 5. I thought Gus Bradley might be out. I'm kind of shocked that they're holding on to him. I think there are a lot of, you know, we've heard the different rumblings with Pagano, whether he could be out. Sean Payton, I think Sean Payton might be done in New Orleans. I could see where he might be ready for a change of scenery. And of course, Miami. I don't think they're going to stick around with Dan Campbell. It's possible that they do, but if, like I said, we see some other coaches move, I think depending on which coaching stone falls first. So obviously, we see with Chip Kelly, being gone, that's a big move. If we see Sean Payton, leave New Orleans, then I think we're going to start seeing, like I said, that'll start the chain reaction. Tom Coughlin, I think he should be gone out of New York. I think the game has just kind of moves past him, in my opinion. So yeah, if I had to say, 3 coaches to get moved, I would say Peyton, Coughlin, and Dan Campbell for sure would probably be the 3 guys looking for new jobs.
You think if there's a year for Gruden to actually come back, it might be this one?
Sure, yeah, definitely.
I mean, if Andrew Luck's available, I don't see him passing that up if it's offered.
Yeah. And I was just about to say, if Gruden were to come back into the league, the 2 teams where I could see him landing would be either Indianapolis or maybe even Tennessee. Like I said, Mike Mularkey's the interim coach of Tennessee right now. Not sure what their plans are. I can't imagine they're going to hold on to him either. But like you said, reference with Mariota, that's a quarterback that Gruden has been high on. So I could see where either one of those 2 spots would maybe reach out to him, and he would probably jump at the chance of that.
So far in bowl season, college-wise, where have you been right, in your opinion?
Not often. Today was actually a brutal day. I had a best bet on North Carolina. Baylor had basically lost 95% of their passing game and about 48% of their running game from the regular season. It really didn't matter because Baylor just decided to use a rotation of running backs and ran about 90 plays in a direct snap formation, and North Carolina could not stop the run all day long. They ended up losing that game 49-38, and the line had moved. Baylor was a 2-point favorite. They moved all the way down to a 3.5 point underdog, so they cashed the outright winning ticket. The other play that I jumped on late was Air Force. They were a 7-point underdog, and then there was some money came in late on them. They just got into a shootout with the quarterback that's going to be on everybody's list. We're going to be hearing about him from now until draft day, Jared Goff for Cal. This kid is just unbelievable. I mean, he got crushed throughout this game, but he stayed in the pocket, showed a tremendous amount of poise, completed some tremendous passes, and I think he might be. We heard all this talk about Connor Cook. The quarterback that I really like coming out of this draft class is Paxton Lynch, but I would not be shocked at all if this game really gets Jared Goff on a lot of teams' radars, and he could be the first quarterback gone in the NFL draft this spring.
I was just looking at that. Yeah, somebody was saying he was the second best quarterback prospect. I looked. Right now, Paxton Lynch is number 1, and then one name that's just going into college, it seemed like everybody was in love with him was Christian Hackenberg. And he's almost nowhere to be found on anybody's, it's like 11th or 12th in some draft boards. I mean, he's just a junior, but still, like, you talk about, coaching change really affecting his draft stock. That's it right there.
Well, and I think, something we see in scouting in the NFL, and we see it the most in baseball, is you've got these scouts that fall in love with the player's makeup more than their talent. Christian Hackenberg, is the prototypical NFL quarterback when you look at him take the field. He's got the size. He's about 6'5", 6'6", decent body, broad shoulders. He's the prototypical stay in the pocket kind of quarterback. I don't think he really has the arm or talent or cleverness to be an effective and elite NFL quarterback. I could see him being a backup at best. So I wasn't really sure. I never bought into the hype when his name was mentioned, over the last couple of years. And the one knock I think would be on Goff. The reason why he might not jump over Paxton Lynch in the quarterback race, so that is that Paxton Lynch has the size and he has the dual threat ability. Like I said, I mean, Paxton Lynch would basically be a poor man's Cam Newton. I mean, the guy's just that big. He can scramble. He can take off and run. He's just not he's not as powerful of a runner as Cam Newton. But he does draw. That's really the comparison that I would make between the two. I think he has a better arm than Cam Newton. So, and that's also taking into consideration how Newton has improved his passing in the last year and a half. But so Goff he's a smaller guy. He is tough. Like I said, he took some huge hits today, and actually looked like he got knocked out of that game. They were worried about if he had separated his non-throwing shoulder at one point late in that game, but he didn't. He came back in, played the whole game. But so it'll be interesting. I'm not a big draft fan personally, at least pre-draft hype. I like to watch and see as we get into the draft and who gets picked. And, like I said, because it now means nothing. Like I said, there's coaching changes to be made. There's personnel changes. We don't even know who's going to be drafting where as far as the bottom half of the bottom portion of the draft standings are. So, but those are names definitely to be looking out for. We'll be hearing those names, like I said, throughout the offseason.
As far as things to look for this week in the NFL, Week 17, what are some things we should be looking out for?
It's kind of like preseason for some of these teams who are done. You want to look and see, really look and listen to some coaches, and interviews and so forth, and see which teams are motivated, which teams are going to be playing their starters, resting their starters. I've already heard that Carolina is going to be playing starters against Tampa Bay. Kansas City will also be, looking to win the division. They're 7-point favorites against Oakland. That's the thing. Will Oakland be motivated to play a Kansas City team that's really, now Kansas City's already in the playoffs. They can only, go up or stay where they are. So the motivation might not be as high as, say, a Carolina who's trying to, get home field throughout the playoffs. A game that was really interesting. We'll talk a little bit about it later. I don't know. I don't have a play on it, and I don't know if I will. But the Seattle-Arizona dynamic is interesting because Arizona has an outside shot to get the number one seed in the NFC. Seattle's already in the playoffs. They're not going to really move, too much. But these two teams could end up facing each other again. So it'll be interesting. It's a late game, so they'll know. Arizona will know their fate pretty much by. Possibly halftime because it kicks off the same time as the Carolina-Tampa Bay game. So if Carolina's, already got a big lead on Tampa Bay going into the halftime, Arizona, Seattle, pretty much kind of tied, I might be looking at some kind of second half play in that Seattle-Arizona game because we might not see any kind of offense by either team. They're not going to try and really give up their playbook the rest of the way. Should there be nothing for either team to play for. So little things like that, little nuances like that are things to look for. I really like watching Week 17. It's a great time. If you have Red Zone or Sunday Ticket, this is like one of the best days to just kind of be at home or get out to a bar and try and watch as many games as possible because it is really fun. Even some of the games that just won't mean absolutely nothing, like the Bears and Lions or New Orleans and Atlanta. New Orleans and Atlanta, who knows how many points could be scored in that game? It might be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, Atlanta's still technically alive. This week 17 is one of the better weeks because obviously you get all the games, but I miss. There's not a lot. I wish there was a winner-take-all game. A few years ago, they had most years it's set up pretty well, but that Sunday night game where it would be like Seattle versus the Rams, and they were both 7-8 or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Not a great game, but I like the Sunday night winner-take-all division title. I do, looking at Arizona and Seattle. Seattle can't really move at all. Arizona can get that 1 seed. I really like Arizona. I mean, as long as everybody talks about, oh, well, we're just waiting for Carson Palmer to make that key mistake in a big game. And it's, the one game, he had the game against Pittsburgh where he blew out his knee. And pretty much every other big game he's really had in his college or actually in his pro career, he's been pretty much injured for. So I didn't understand he's going to make a big crucial mistake in a big game because he hasn't really played in that many where he's 100% healthy. Now he's 100% healthy, as close to healthy as he's going to be. And I like Arizona's chances to get out of the NFC.
I do too. No, I do too. I really think, this Arizona team is just very solid offensively and defensively. And they seem to be on a clear mission this year. Carson Palmer is not getting any younger. And I think this is the best team that he's had to really lead, the way through and make a run to a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think this is a team definitely they're the team to beat in the NFC. Granted, Carolina, yes, is a tremendous team, and no one wants to face them. They're going to be a dangerous out. But I really think that Carolina and Arizona, those are going to be I think one of those two teams will be playing in Super Bowl 50 out of the NFC.
Has there been any overreaction in Vegas to Carolina losing?
Wait, I didn't hear the last part, Edmund.
Has there been any overreaction at all in Vegas to Carolina losing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I look at this line. It opened at 11, and so a little bit of money trickled in, obviously on Tampa Bay, just out of sheer fact of if Carolina does decide to rest guys or just not play at 100%. Double digits always a high spread. So, but 10.5 is a reasonable line here in this Carolina playing at home, a later game. No, I don't think there's been any overreaction at all, in my opinion. They're still the odds-on favorite at many books, offshore and in Vegas to win the NFC, to win the Super Bowl. And I'm one of the people who believe that them losing now, obviously it's better than losing in a couple of weeks, but I just believe that losing late in the season gives a team motivation to really push forward and make a deeper run in the playoffs, as to say where a team like Kansas City, for example, who are now on I think 9-game win streak, they have they're losing, where it was early in the year. I think there's a little bit more pressure on Kansas City to keep winning after being on such a run, to where they might have a bit of a fall off. So yeah, I think this loss, I don't think that was a bad loss at all, obviously, for the Panthers. And I think they do win this game. I'm not going to play the side or the total here because, like I said, we don't know Tampa Bay's motivation could fan out if Carolina gets off to an early lead. Tampa Bay I think they should have won last week in Chicago. They really kind of laid an egg there. So can't really back Tampa Bay right now, even with a double-digit spread.
Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on the box seats with Alex V. Smith and Bob Sullivan. When we come back, we will be discussing the NFL Week 17 lines and the rest of the bowl season and college football playoff here on the box seats.
Maybe I could offer up an answer to a tale heard 1,000
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Welcome back to the box seat here on latenightsportsradio.com. If you'd like to call in, ask for any picks or anything like that, you can call in at 585-633-7487. Joined back here with Alex B. Smith. Alex, going into week 17 here, lines are out. What in particular caught your eye this week for the NFL?
Well, like I said, I love making plays on the last week of the NFL season. I had a lot of things circled right off the bat. Obviously, as numbers came out, a lot of things kind of scratched out. We got a few games where they don't have the lines are down, or some spots don't have lines up for it. I think there's about 4 games, just 4 or 5 games that aren't even lined at a lot of books right now, so they're just kind of waiting for information and whatnot. But the games with numbers available to them that really caught my eye, I played 2 of them already. I love the storyline with this Buffalo Jets game. This is awesome. You got the Jets; they control their own playoff destiny, but they got to go through Buffalo and they got to go through Rex Ryan, and we know that it would make Rex Ryan's 2015 and 2016 to be the stopgap to keep the Jets from making the postseason. So I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. I'm glad that's a 12 o'clock game. I'll definitely have my eyes glued to that one. Jets are 3-point favorite, and it's tough. I mean, obviously, I think that is the right price for the line, but you look at Buffalo, like I said, the motivation factor. These guys know that this is definitely their Super Bowl for sure. So like I said, it's gonna be a good game. I'm actually looking at, I played Buffalo plus the points, but I might be playing this total over too. Even though these two teams are defensive minded, I just think this game's going to be, this is gonna be a playoff game. I think we might see a lot more than 42.5, 43 points in this game.
Going into the season, I don't know if you remember when we were doing the win totals before week 1, and I was talking about how I was surprised that the totals for the AFC East were they're pretty high. Like, I think the Jets might have been the lowest at like 6 wins. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is 8, 9, 10, 11. Dolphins have obviously been one of the worst teams in the NFL, but
yeah,
Jets and Bills I believe have covered both of have gone the over on theirs. So. This is interesting to me with the Jets. Like, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw them being good, and now everybody's talking about potentially is Ryan Fitzpatrick the answer for the next 5 years in New York? And it's a weird question to be asking of a guy who's in his 30s as quarterback. But yeah, this line interests me. Another one that intrigues me is Dallas being favored by 3 over Washington. Am I missing something here? Why is that?
I think that was more of the world opener. I've seen that one come down in most books now, and I'm not really sure in reference to what that. I'm not sure if that's just kind of a wait and see with Dallas with their kind of quarterback rotation thing, or I think that's just more of like a stopgap kind of line. I see that too as well. But most of the major books that I follow don't have that game up. And I don't know what that number will actually come up as. I don't think it will stay at 3. I think that'll probably come back up as a pick'em because, obviously those two teams just don't like each other, and there will be some motivation to finish the season out strong. But I don't know how great of a game that might be. Other than that and the I think the Baltimore Cincinnati game is actually going to be a pretty boring game to watch too. I think those are going to be probably the 2 worst games, and maybe even Philly and the Giants. I don't know what to expect now. I thought that line would come off the board with the announcement of Chip Kelly getting fired, but I still see the Giants as 3-point favorites everywhere, with juice on the 3. So that'll be interesting too. I don't know what to expect out of those 3 games. I think those would be the bottom 3 games of as far as from a viewing and betting aspect, in my opinion, I wouldn't be looking at either one of those games. Cincinnati, obviously, still having a roundabout shot to, maybe, sneak in and get the number one spot in the AFC. But with McCarron, he has a sprained wrist. It's his non-throwing wrist. He sprained it in the last play of the game last night, that fumble in overtime. So if he's out, then it's Keith Wenning is his backup, who is a pretty strong-armed passer at Ball State. Not too many people have pretty much followed him. I watch a lot of the MAC, so I remember seeing him, and he put up some pretty good yards. I don't know if he'd be good enough to be a good NFL quarterback, but Baltimore, had that big win last week. That was kind of like their big game to beat their rival in Pittsburgh. Can Ryan Mallett go back out and throw for 240-something yards again? I'm not going to bet on that either. So that's a tough spot as well.
Is there any games you would stay away from in particular because either one, there's nothing to play for that team, or two, the people are probably going to be sitting their starters?
Yeah, that's what I was saying in reference to those games. Washington, Dallas,
New England, in your opinion?
And that's why there's some books that don't have those numbers up. I think New England might play their starters for the first half. And if they get out to a nice lead, or if they get down to a big hole, then we might see some guy, Brady, and because they're already banged up, so there's no reason to risk having Brady out there in the second half. Especially when they have Garoppolo, who's a capable quarterback. So yeah, I could see where New England would definitely want to rest guys. But the thing is, how motivated is Miami? Like I said, with their situation, does Dan Campbell already kind of know that he's going to be out of a job the next day? A lot of guys will be kind of, having their head on a swivel thinking, all right, well, they're going to clean house here because of how bad the season was for the Dolphins. It's a very disappointing year. So I don't know how motivated Miami will be enough to keep pace of a 10.5 spread. I don't know how motivated New England would be to try and really push the gun on Miami because they've, pretty much everything set for them. They just want to get healthy and get some rest. So yeah, that's definitely another game that I would stay away from. As I said, viewing wise, there's some great games, but betting wise, there's really only about 4 or 5 spots tops that I would look to play. And like I said, I've already played 2 of them. There's a third one that I'm looking at, and like I said, we'll be talking about that in a moment with the best bets.
I feel like this would be a good week to go after second half totals.
Yes. Yeah, second half betting, sides and totals. That, like I said, the Seattle Arizona is a game I have circled. I literally have that written on my checklist as watch for second half. Another game that I have watch for second half on is the Tampa Bay Carolina, and maybe even Tennessee Indianapolis, because more than likely, like I said, Indianapolis, we won't see a number up for that game probably until. I'm guessing Thursday afternoon, maybe even Friday, with the quarterback situation with the Colts and Tennessee. So that's something I might nothing to play for there. Wouldn't play a full game side or total, but could be some interesting stuff in the second half if those two teams just decide to, not really give a care and just decide to have a glorified practice, or if they really want to just kind of go out and have some fun and throw the ball around for the last 30 minutes. So. Something to look out for.
Were there any totals that were surprise to you this week?
I thought the Saints and Falcons total was a tad bit high. I know how bad New Orleans' defense is, but if you look at the whole situation with Drew Brees and his ankle, and I don't know if I would assume Drew Brees would be coming back, and playing another season. Whether it would be with the Saints or not, I'm not sure. So you think about, all right. Is he going to make this his last game? Is that why he's trying to play through this the plantar fasciitis, because he might be calling it quits? I don't think so. I think he would have made that announcement within the week if that were the case. And if he made that announcement, I would have definitely been on the Saints. I think they would have been trying to play really hard for him with all that he's done for that organization. But since that doesn't seem to be the case, I think 52.5 is a little bit high here. Atlanta, they played their biggest game of the year, obviously last year. Or last week, I should say, by beating Carolina, giving them their first loss and avenging a bad loss from 2 weeks prior. I don't know how motivated they'll be, even though this is a big rivalry with New Orleans and they're at home. So it's an interesting game. I might look at playing the first half under. Looking to see where some of the early first half numbers are in that. One book has a 26.5 with juice on the over, so I might play that. I might play that 26.5 under in the first half. I'll wait until maybe Friday when more of those numbers pop up, but that's something I'll have circled.
On the college football side of things, the games are slowly getting better as far as
Yes.
appealing matchups. Over the next couple days, got Memphis, Auburn, interesting game there. A&M, Louisville. Is there anything that's catching your eye right now that's not college football playoff?
Well, the Louisville A&M game. Love Louisville in the spot. Can't play it because once A&M, you had the transfer stuff with Murray leaving their quarterback. A lot of different issues going on with A&M, and that's why that number has moved from where A&M was a 3-point favorite. There are now at some books a 5-point underdogs. That's a huge swing. Obviously, like I said, that there's motivation concerns there. So I think Louisville does win that game, cover that number. I'm not going to be playing that with anybody's money. I'm never going to take that bad of a number. And looking at, I talked about it last week with Notre Dame and Ohio State. If I do play this game, just to give a heads up to the listeners, I'll be giving this game away free on Twitter, more than likely before Thursday evening if I play it. I haven't fired away on it yet, but this Notre Dame Ohio State game on New Year's Day, I just don't think Ohio State is going to be motivated at all. Now we got this other issue with Ezekiel Elliott was in this car crash with his suspended license, and we already talked about him and Cardale Jones, how they responded after losing their first game of the year and already declaring for the NFL draft, basically. So it seems like it would be a really awkward time for Ohio State. Notre Dame, they had a pretty disappointing, finish out, but I think they'll be a little bit more motivated and catching a touchdown here. I think that's a good spot. So that might be the only game I play the rest of the way. Now looking back at the playoff games, I really like Clemson. I think Clemson is a great team. However, whenever I like teams in big spots like this, be it a national championship game or even the playoffs, they usually tend to lose. So I'm fading myself in theory. And I would, if I were to play either one of the playoff games, I would look at laying the 3.5 with Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma's just been really hot right now. They have a great defense, but they've just been electric on offense lately. Granted, they haven't been playing some cupcake teams in their division, the Big 12. But I think this game is going to be a fun game to watch. Should be a shootout. Might look at a total in the first or second half. But as far as full game plays go, the rest of the way in the college bowls, the only thing I would probably be playing would be Notre Dame, Ohio State, or maybe catching a number in that next week with the national title game, which of course we'll be talking about before that happens.
Is there a I hate how much people weigh conference strength based off of bowl season. I mean, it really, it doesn't. I can't. Just because Florida beats Michigan does not make the SEC better than the Big Ten this year. But a couple of lines that did, interest me. USC, Wisconsin, 3.5. USC favored by 3.5 in some spots. If it went down, if you can get it for 2.5, 3, I would take that more so than 3.5. Not a huge fan of Wisconsin. They play kind of a boring style. Cody Kessler's last game, I think they're going to kind of air it out, and these players now know who their coach is going to be next year, so they're going to be playing for that. So I would say I would be inclined to take USC in this spot. I like that pick. And then another one, Tennessee favored by 8.5, 9 over Northwestern. Seems pretty high to me.
Yeah, It's odd because Northwestern, there's a lot of hype on Northwestern this year, and I didn't buy into it. It was the same old with Northwestern. They had a really easy non-conference schedule, and they looked dominant. As soon as they run into Big Ten play, they got ran into the buzzsaw and fell down by the wayside. So I don't know. I haven't researched this game much. Not sure where the motivation lies with either club, be it Tennessee or Northwestern. Um, I know Northwestern has played in this bowl game a couple times over the last few years, so it's always a big deal for them to play in a New Year's Day bowl. So there could be some, motivation, like I said, but it is a high number. I don't really have any motivation to lay nearly 9 with Tennessee or, back Northwestern to hang around. If I had to play it, gun to my head, I would look at maybe the total. I could see where maybe this game, couple of scores here and there. We've seen a lot of games lately just kind of get out of hand from a total perspective. So I think this game could go over with a low total at 47, but definitely would stay far away from it. One game I do want to kind of mention that I kind of leaned on, but I'm not going to play it. The Houston-Florida State game on New Year's Eve on Thursday. Florida State, Everett Golson being out now, didn't affect the line much at all. Houston's still a 7.5-point underdog. So I think if for people who are leaning toward taking the points with Houston because of this is one of the biggest games for their program in history, you might want to jump on that now because sharp money will come in tomorrow and into right before kickoff, and we'll move that number down. So the best number to jump in on the Cougars right now is definitely right now at +7. Like I said, a couple 7.5s that are floating around offshore. So that's something else worth looking at.
Did with the college football playoff, Oklahoma, actually with the Michigan State, Alabama, do you see that line moving up at all or down at all? Do you think it stays right at 9, 9.5?
I think between the 9 and 10 range, I think we're going to see a lot more. Obviously, I think more public money is going to come in over the next 48 hours of that, but I think it's going to be a lot of two-way action. Alabama always draws. These are two huge public teams, and I don't know where I lie in this. If I had to play it, I would look at just taking the points because I think both teams are fairly even for the most part. I don't see any glaring disparity. The total has gone down from 49 to 46.5. Both teams have very staunch defenses, but once again, when you start talking about a playoff game, look at Ohio State, Alabama last year, and how that game wasn't supposed to be the shootout it turned into. So you have teams that kind of play a bit out of character from a totals perspective in these big games, in my opinion. I think we could see that game, either one of these playoff games, we could see a boatload of points, or we could see a really tight defensive contest. Because we're talking about fairly even, I think these are the most evenly matched teams for a playoff compared to last year. I didn't think there were some mismatches last year. But I think these two semifinals are pretty evenly matched. So we could see just about anything happen, which obviously makes it exciting to watch.
Going into best bets here for week 17 and for the last time this year. Yeah. What do you have for your good bet this week?
My good bet, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play like I said, I already played this game. So the Buffalo +3, that's gonna be my good bet. Like I said, it's gonna be a funny game to watch. Rex Ryan is going to have his guys fired up just as they were in the colorblind game, in the first meeting, but on Thursday night. The Jets, I think, they're a solid team, but I think Buffalo is just going to be that much more motivated, and I think they cover this game. I could see the Jets, if they do win this game, I think it pushes on 3. But I really think Buffalo is going to be out and win this game outright. So I'll just take the points with the Bills.
My good bet is going to be, I'm going to go with the USC covering 3.5 over Wisconsin in the who knows, I don't care bowl. I would say I like USC. I like I like a team that knows what they're going to have going into next year. Kessler's last game, I like the way USC's been playing down the stretch. I think they wind up beating Wisconsin, maybe by a touchdown. Your better bet this week.
Better bet. This is a total I had circled early, and I need to do a little more research on it. St. Louis and San Francisco, that number's low at 37 for a reason. San Francisco's just been horrible. How motivated can they possibly be? Same thing with St. Louis. They got a great defense, but after beating Seattle, in a nice win, will they, could be a bit of a letdown for them as well. I just think 37 is an awfully low number for an end of the year ball game. But I might look at playing this one over. I think this game could accidentally go over 37 points. I think we could see at least 3 touchdowns each way and sail that game over. So I'll make that my better bet.
Oh my God. My better bet, I'm going to say Tennessee covers at Indianapolis. Indy favored by 6. I'm going to say Tennessee covers that. Indy has not played well against their division this year, and I believe they are starting Josh Freeman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they signed Freeman and Ryan Lindley today. They actually called me, but I told them I'd be too hungover Sunday. So, but yeah, that's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be a mess. Ryan Lindley. I didn't think he would ever get an NFL job again after the that whole Arizona playoff fiasco, his last game. So that's gonna be a tough spot if Tennessee at least kind of has a little more stability, which is sad to say. They're a little more stable than the Colts right now. So.
Yeah, that's going to be just a god-awful game. But I do think Tennessee covers that. Your best bet for the week?
My best bet, I'm gonna take a shot with it. The Saints and Falcons under 52.5. Like I said, not sure how much of Drew Brees we're gonna see. Like I said, talked about how this could be Sean Payton's last game. So that might affect a bit of the motivation. This is definitely a letdown spot for Atlanta after playing such a big emotional game last week and getting that big win. I just don't see a whole lot of points scored in this. So I'll look at, like I said, I do like both unders, but I'll make the first half under. I'll go first half under 26.5. There's one book that you can get it at where you'd actually find a plus price on that under. So, but as it comes out, I'm sure it'll go up. So we'll grade it at 26.5 under in the first half of the Saints and Falcons.
My best bet is taking you can get it for 38.5 total. Take it. Florida, Michigan. I'm going to take the over in that. I know Florida is allergic to scoring at times, and Michigan is very defensive minded. However, I think these bowl games, 1 o'clock start. Some teams not awake to start, and then the other team wakes up in the second half. I can't imagine this going under 38.5. I mean, you're asking for a 20-18 type of game, and I don't see that. So I'm going to say that goes over for my best bet.
Huh.
All right. Before we get out of here for the year, we're going to acknowledge I don't have any best bets that I made throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
I had some good guesses. I don't have them written down, but I should do that for sure next year. Need to do that. But what were your best picks for the year?
Some of my best picks for the year, and it was funny. During the break, I went through and kind of looked through this. I would say they weren't like huge wins necessarily, but just wins that I were proud of. Looking back the season, the beginning of the year, I had a play on UNC Charlotte in their first ever game on the road at Georgia State. It was a Friday afternoon game in September. They came out and won outright as a 7.5 point dog. A lot of people didn't have that on their radar for the longest time. I kind of had that game circled looking back in July. I just thought, Georgia State's an awful program. Charlotte was actually pretty good, and a lot of people didn't know that. Despite being a second-year team, the reason they had such a bad record is because they had a lot of injuries. And even during this first year, the FBS team had a ton of injuries still. So they'll be good again next year, provided that if they can stay healthy. I don't know, 3 years in a row with a lot of injuries, it could be kind of weird. But that was a good play I had. Looking back at last year in the hockey season, I actually won a rare future with in the Stanley Cup final between the Blackhawks and Lightning. I called Duncan Keith, defenseman, to win the Conn Smythe Awards for the playoff MVP. That paid off at 5-1, so that was a nice payoff to cash in, and got to cash that ticket just a week after my birthday. So that was a nice way to start off the summer for me. But some bad plays that I had. I can look back to literally last night. Broncos -3.5 against the Bengals. A spot where the Broncos were marching down the field late, could have easily gone for a touchdown and won the game. Tried to play it safe by kicking the field goal. Brandon McManus basically kicks this thing up toward Wyoming. Misses it. They get the ball back in overtime. Finally make the field goal, and then the Bengals fumble. Game falls on 3. I get bit by the hook a little bit. So that was one of the bad ones. And North Carolina at the beginning of the year, it's a game that really kind of bit them in the butt in their chances of getting the playoff game. They were 3-point underdogs against South Carolina, a neutral site game. Marquise Williams throws 2 terrible interceptions, one early and one late. And that's pretty much what buried them in that game. They did go on to win 11 straight before losing the last 2 on the year. But also I gave out on this show the over 8.5 wins. That cashed easily. So that was another good play that came out from North Carolina. So how about you? What's another bad wager? I know the biggest one for you is that Kansas total.
Actually, that is the worst. That was the worst. I will say, our worst mistake this year was when we had the discussion on the show, when it was 35-1 odds, Andre Iguodala could win Finals MVP before the series started. And we were kind of wavering back and forth on it. And we're like, I eventually didn't put any money on it, but by not putting any money on that, 35-1 odds for him to win Finals MVP, bad call. Because we were so close. Like, we were just like, if things go well, he's most likely going to hit a couple big shots, and he's going to be guarding LeBron. And if they win, it's going to be because he kind of took LeBron out of the series, which wasn't totally the case.
Right.
But he still hit big shots when necessary, and I had a big series. But, yeah, definitely regret that one. The Kansas one, but probably one of the worst bets ever placed in, football history. Their win total was at 1.5. I took the over, and correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't win a game this year, did they?
No, they didn't. And it's funny because I knew your bet was officially in trouble. That first week of the year, they played against South Dakota State, and I actually took the 3.5 with South Dakota State. They were all over Kansas early in that game, and I'm like, oh man, this could be a really bad year for Kansas. And sure enough, yeah, they drew the collar and just could not get anything done against anybody this year. And I don't think it's going to get it. I don't know what's going to happen to try to change around KU football. I mean, maybe they go for Chip Kelly. If they can pay Chip Kelly more money than they're, paying Bill Self and all those guys with the basketball program, then maybe they could try and draw him down into Lawrence. But other than that, I don't know what it's going to take to turn Kansas football around. They'll never be K-State, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, Mangino had it figured out, had the formula figured out for a couple of years.
For a couple of years, yeah, and it kind of just fell apart with him as well. And the failed drawing a blank on Charlie Weiss. Yeah, the failed Charlie Weiss project. That was they've had a rough go of it down there, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
No, it's been an utter disaster. Yeah, Turner Gill was another one down there. That was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, at the time when he wasn't hired by Auburn, that was considered just a travesty. So maybe, maybe they made the right call on that one. But,
yeah, it seems like it.
Well, before we get out of here, any last end of the year things to say to the folks out there?
Well, yeah, I just want to say, thanks for, making this, almost the first, well, this is the first year of our show, the Box Seats, and we haven't come to a complete full year of it, but, Bob, thank you for, being an awesome co-host, and Keith has been a wonderful producer for us, and, filled in for a couple of spot starts here and there, so thank everybody who's listened, on the Tuesday nights, and kind of struggle with our a bit of inconsistency at times to not have a show here and there, but for all the people who keep coming back, thank you. We appreciate the support. I get some tweets and emails about us now, and people are starting to listen more and more. So that's amazing. We do this out of the love of our hearts. Sports betting is my life. So for me to talk about it on a week by week basis, there's nothing I'd rather do. So thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a wonderful 2016. Have a safe and happy new year. Don't do anything completely stupid. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. I'm not sure how that, maybe try not to do less of what I would do, be even safer. So, but yeah, so, it's been a good year.
Yeah. Again, thanks to everybody who's listened. Thanks Keith for bringing this show on board to latenightsportsradio.com. And, we'll see you again in 2016. And, keep listening, keep betting, and keep coming back for more of Alex's advice and my heartfelt picks. Alrighty, well, that'll do it for this edition of the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. We'll be back next Tuesday talking college football championship and possibly the 1AA championship as well, if that line ever comes on the board, and NFL playoffs. And we'll see you next week.